I love it. It is the most beautiful day of the year. It's, this peaceful in a world that we live on, which is filled with so much frustration and segregation and, all this negativity. You go to a marathon, it's an instantaneous connection to all these people. And I love seeing the people from all the countries. And it's hard to say never again. But in terms of being a qualified athlete, 15th and final, I have my medal rack. I think I shared a picture with you of that. I wake up and I look at that and I think, no, that's really awesome. I worked really hard for that.
So let's talk about number 15.
Number 15. So as I talked about the medal rack and everything. And I thought to myself, I'm going to qualify in 2023 I'll qualify for 24 at Boston. And then I went to Hartford and I was going to qualify for 25 and then I was going to be done. And so I did that. I went and, did what I was going to do. And then granted that started back in 2023, this idea, this commitment, this goal that I had. And it had been a lot of time since I'd run 2 marathons in a year. I'd really was just running Boston year after year. And so, I get in for that. And then I had this realization that my daughter, she graduates high school in 2026. And, Boston is a huge deal for her too. Basically, she's 17. Her whole life I've done this. So I was like, maybe she'll graduate and I'll graduate from Boston. So I decided to train this summer for Philly. And as I trained through the summer, feeling great. I had this great coach, Jenny. And, we had an amazing training cycle. I'd put up a 22 miler. For me, it was great, alternating, all these things. Anyway, I was alternating 720 and 50 for 18 miles. And then fast forward to November 21st, I ended up having a heart attack and all these things. So I did end up in the hospital. I did have a SCAD heart attack, so spontaneous coronary artery dissection. And so I was in a coma for 2 days. But when I woke up from the coma, I have oxygen and I'm in pretty rough shape. But the first question out of my mouth is, well, when can I run again? Because I have Boston in April. And I think my family was like, oh, Annie, like, kind of this moment of like, what is she doing? But I had made a commitment to myself in 2023 that I was going to run my 15th Boston. So once I got up and, at one point I'm walking around the hospital, I have oxygen in and everything. And I thought to myself, I'm like, if I can do this, if I can just walk, there's a chance that I'm going to get myself there. And so was my family frustrated by that or like scared? They want my parents, the priest came in and prayed over me because they really thought I wasn't coming out of the hospital. Like it was that bad. So fast forward, I meet with some great doctors up in Boston at Mass General, Dr. Honenberg and Dr. Tisaras. I think I'm probably saying your name's wrong. Sorry. But I walk in, I do a stress test 2 weeks out from Boston. And this was the decider, how I did on the stress test. And so I walk in there and lo and behold, on the wall, there's a framed picture of the Boston Marathon race director, Dave, what's his last name?
McGillivray.
Yes. There's a framed picture of him there. And I thought to myself, I'm going to Boston. Like, I don't know what it was, like seeing that, because he's also had some heart issues, right? And so seeing that, I get onto the treadmill and they're like, all right, every 5 seconds, it's going to go up, but you have to run. I was like, I literally haven't run for 5 months, not a single step, but here we go. Let's do the thing. So I'm there and I have a mask on. I have 6, prongs on. I have like a O2 thing on my finger. I don't know the name of it, but anyway.
Oxygen saturation, yeah.
Yes, thank you. So I have all these things on, and I haven't run in 5 months, but I'm like, God damn it, I'm going to the Boston Marathon. So I get up there, and I was like, how long do people normally last on this? And they're like 10 to 12 minutes. I was like, say less, 10 minutes it is. And I'm just like trucking away, and you're running, uphill, and you can't walk, you have to run. So, we finish the test and I meet with a doctor and she's like, okay. She said, your VO2 max was 122% better than most people your age that haven't had a heart attack. And so I will allow you to go, but 2 conditions. 1, if you have any symptoms, which for me was all in my face, all jaw pain. And 2, you have to keep your heart rate under 150. So I said, okay. So off I went and I did Boston. I'd be honest, and my family, particularly, my parents were it was hard for them, and with reason. I didn't see myself in the hospital bed. I didn't see myself intubated and then with oxygen and all the tubes, and they had to see that. And so I think for me, because I didn't see that, I don't have the same experience as them. But I was so excited. And so little by little, from that point on, I worked my way up. I had been working my way up in the hopes that they were going to give me the green light. So I think a week out from Boston, I jogged 13.1 miles. And I said, perfect. I just did a 5-month taper. I'm up to 13 miles. Let's go do the thing. So Boston, as you were there, it was an absolutely beautiful day. Probably a little warm for actual running, but for spectating and people like me that were staying alive, it was beautiful. I've never run Boston with a phone, but I had it obviously for emergency purposes. But, being able to capture some of the cool, crowds and, so this was my 15th and final. That is what I've said. People say things though, so.
It sounds like you're doing another one.
We'll see. I love it. It is the most beautiful day of the year. It's, this peaceful in a world that we live on, which, is filled with so much frustration and segregation and, all this negativity. You go to a marathon, it's an instantaneous connection to all these people. And I love seeing the people from all the countries. And, like I said, even this year, I met this awesome girl, Jenny, coming off the bus. She's from the UK. She did Boston, then she's from the UK, then she went and did London, and it was just, it's so cool to meet all these people. It's hard to say never again. But in terms of being a qualified athlete, 15th and final, I have my medal rack. I think I shared a picture with you of that. I wake up and I look at that and I think, no, that's really awesome. I worked really hard for that.